Hey, everybody, welcome to this week's episode of the Going Somewhere podcast. I'm the host, Stephen Glosser, and I am glad that you're here. We are excited about this episode, and I'm pumped to get into it. Our guest today is Dustin Nickerson. Dustin is a stand-up comedian. He's originally from Seattle, currently lives in San Diego, but he travels the world telling jokes and bringing a lot of joy and laughter. I know I discovered him about a year ago, just kind of on social media, and it's very frequent that I send Taylor a clip of one of his bits or one of his jokes. I think there's a lot of negativity in the world, and so he's kind of been a spark of joy, a spark of laughter for our family and in our house. So I'm excited for you to get a chance to hear from him. He has a new special called Runs in the Family that is officially out on YouTube. You can check it out. He has a book called How to Be Married to Melissa. They have a podcast called Don't Make Me Come Back There. So there's many ways that you can connect with Dustin. But today I just wanted to take some time just to kind of talk about his story a little bit, talk about just kind of the heartbeat of their marriage. It's a unique marriage, just like any other marriage. Their story is unique. Their faith background is unique. And I think there's something that we can all learn from that. I think, for one, we're in a season now where, we've been married 8 years and there's some young adults in this podcast that are dating, or they're wanting to date, or they're looking forward to marriage. And there is a lot of resources, a lot of ideas, a lot of books on how to be married. But his perspective of how to be married to his person is refreshing because people change, situations change, seasons change, jobs change. And the marriages that thrive, the marriages that really just go the distance, but in a healthy, meaningful way, are the ones that grow together, the ones that adapt together, the ones that embrace new circumstances and new challenges head on and live to tell the story. And so I'm excited for you to hear their story. I'm excited for you to kind of get a glimpse into his world. But before we send it into the episode today, I just want to thank you for listening. I'm blown away that we are nearly 40 episodes into this thing. We've been recording these episodes for over a year now, and that you're still listening, you're still watching. And that means a lot to me. And I know a lot of you have given love, whether it's on social media or leaving a review or leaving a rating for the podcast. But if you haven't done that, I encourage you to do so. Wherever you listen, just leave a rating, leave a review. That's how more people engage. And if you like something from the podcast, whether it's an episode, share it in your story, share it with a friend, or if you like one of the clips that we share on Instagram at goingsomewhere.podcast, send that out to the world. It helps more people get the message. These conversations are all so different. They go in different directions. But the cool thing is if you stay around long enough, you're going to hear my heart for Jesus. You're going to hear a lot of people who care a lot about him. And that's the greatest thing in this season of life that we can cling to and pursue and chase after. And so I'm excited for you to be here. I'm excited for you to listen to this episode. Without further ado, let's take it to this episode with Dustin Nickerson. Hey, everybody. Today I am joined by a very special guest. I'm joined today by the comedian, Dustin Nickerson. How are you doing, Dustin?
Good. Thank you for having me, my friend.
Hey,
we're Stephen, not Stefan, right? I never know. I always
Steven.
wanted to be Stephen, but the occasional Stefan just sneaks in there and ruins things for all of us insecure people.
Steph Curry has created problems for the spelling of my name. But hey, I'm pumped to have you on. I was caught up in the interwebs of Dustin Nickerson and the bit rabbit trails of Instagram and TikTok. And I was like, why not try? So I'm glad that you took some time to be with us today. I've been looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Do you mind just kind of
people are seeing my stuff on the internet. That's always the goal.
It would be weird if it wasn't, but
Exactly.
Do you mind just talking a little bit about yourself, a little background, who you are, what you're doing nowadays?
Sure. Yeah. My name's Dustin. I'm a stand-up comedian. I live in San Diego, California with my wife and my 3 children. I'm a touring comic. I'm out most weekends. I've, like I said, the 3 kids, 16, 14, and 9, originally from Seattle, Washington. I don't know. What do we, my parents are divorced. What are we diving into here? I don't know.
Hey,
That
wherever you want to go. No, that's awesome.
that's the quickest overview I got, I think.
I love it. I love it. You know, the Seattle, I wore the old school Mariners jersey just
Love
for
it.
you. You know, my
Yeah.
family, we have family out in Seattle. So I grew up going on really long road trips, you know, in the suburban. We take out the middle seat,
Oh yeah.
drive out to Seattle, and back in like the Jay Buhner days, Brett
Mhm.
Boone, Ken Griffey Jr., you know, so big Mariners guy
Yeah.
back in the day.
I mean, you're probably the only person in history who's ever said Brett Boone before Ken Griffey Jr.
Well, he's kind of an
when
easy one. That's the jersey I'm wearing.
naming the great Mariners.
Yeah, David Segui. I remember that
Oh,
name.
David Segui, there's
Uh,
a poll.
John Olerud. He was the helmet wearing
The guy
first
who wore
baseman.
the mm-hmm.
So
No one tried to be a trendsetter. No one took after him in that.
I did because
Yeah.
not an actual baseball, but whenever I get the nachos, I get the helmet, and then
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
I always think
Or
of
the
John
ice
Olerud.
cream, the little helmet, yeah.
Yep, yep. So I always think of John Olerud. But no, Seattle's a
Hilarious.
great place. How long ago did you move out of Seattle?
We moved to San Diego 11 years ago.
Okay,
Yeah, we had two kids at the time and headed south. We had a job opportunity and they were like San Diego, and I'm like, we're in.
we're
It's
in.
absolutely yes. So
That's awesome. But Seattle does have some unique, you know, features. You got the gum wall. You know, you've got some unique things that people come to see, just like a wall of gum.
yeah, Seattle has a weird, distinct, unique identity. There's not really anything like it in that it has both major corporations, Starbucks, Microsoft, Boeing, Amazon, massive world-changing corporations. And then also great art, the Nirvana, Jimi Hendrix, like the grunge scene, all that stuff has come out of there. And then also a wall full of gum.
You
Like,
also
and
throw fish. You throw fish at strangers.
you throw, yeah, and flying fish and a hidden troll statue under a bridge. It's a weird thing.
The the
It's one of
underground
one.
tour.
There's nothing.
The underground
I've
tour
never done
though
the underground tour. Have
is
you?
yes, and it became one of our favorite things. I didn't realize how much the history of Seattle was built on poop. I don't know if you know that of the drainage just problems, and they had
Yeah.
to rebuild the city because of it. So
Yeah, I think a lot of it is still built on poop. I
yeah,
think it's got some issues
it's in
that they're
different
working
ways,
on
but yeah,
where human feces is becoming an issue again. But,
that
nothing new under the sun, as they
nothing new.
say.
Yeah, they always come back. The trends always come back. But
Yeah.
no, I was scrolling through Instagram one day, and then the first joke that I ever heard from you was the dad bod bit.
Mhm.
And I don't know if I've related, you know, more or just been justified by something more. Just the idea of big muscles or just muscles that aren't hugging their kids. I relate to that.
Yeah, my favorite part of that joke is that joke. I wrote that joke when I was working at a rec center, like a YMCA, and I would see these dads come in and drop their like kids off for like 2 hours in the play care, and you're like, I mean, that kid was in school today, and now you're taking him here. I mean, what? How often are you seeing this kid? Like you really have to accommodate so much of your schedule in order to be in great shape. And I'm not talking about having some fitness in your life. You should all do that to some extent,
Yeah.
but to be in great shape. But my favorite part about that, and I post that joke once a year on Father's Day. So
What's
coming
coming
up.
up?
And my favorite part is how offended people get by like the dads who are like, no, you just got to be disciplined. You just got to get up. You got to get it in. And I was like, I always think, is there a workout for thicker skin? Because they are so sensitive about it. They are such little snowflake softies to like, guys, relax. This is just take the point. Not every joke's for you. This isn't, but fitness folks are like that. If you come out and like take any shots on like their lifestyle and this is the only way, you're like, dude, just you're proving my point. Go to a recital.
Oh, I get that. I lived with some, you know, workout dudes, and I've just been blessed with a fast metabolism my whole life, and so I've
Mhm.
just kind of gotten the skinny physique without much work. I eat Oreos, sleep by the sleeve, all that. But
Yeah.
I was playing spike ball with two of my roommates, and they had their shirts off, and they were kind of bantering about how they were working out to get the ladies and stuff. And at the time, I was engaged, and
Mhm.
my roommate Wyatt bursted out in a now famous line around here: "Not everyone has a killer personality." And I think the killer personality is the trait that's worth pursuing, worth chasing. I
Yeah,
think
I don't know how you develop a personality though. I don't know. Are there workouts for that? Are you
you
like,
can
I think it's called like reading and stuff. I think it's like, learning some interesting facts. I don't know, but I don't know. You are right that Neil Brennan has a great joke about that where he talks about like, people, women always like you because only like you because your job. And he's like, yeah, absolutely. I looked at my body in high school and I was like, you better write some jokes. And there is a reality to that of like, well, yeah, some of us weren't born with a natural physique or ability or looks either. So we're gonna have to go work on some charm.
Yes. And I think I just got done reading your book, How to
Oh,
Be
hey, how about
Married
that? Speaking of reading.
How to Be Married to Melissa, one of the greatest book titles of all time. um but I
The book
think
you didn't care for, but the title,
oh
oh,
yeah, throw the book.
fantastic.
I'm just gonna put the cover on my wall as a poster. But
Good,
no,
good, good.
no, it was a really cool perspective on marriage. And I think what kind of sparked writing that book in the first place?
A global pandemic.
That sparked a
My
lot of things.
Yeah, my job of stand-up comedy being outlawed. Like, we were the government saying we're going to pay you not to tell jokes. That's how that all happened. I had so much downtime that we were all pursuing different things. We were all like, I mean, what do I do out here? And it was around that time that I started getting a lot more I don't know, savvy on the internet, a little more involved. And like, it's like, all right, I got to learn how to do some of this stuff. And so I started posting a lot more. I started making a lot of more content, a lot more video content. And as like my follower counts went up a little bit, I got a literary agent reached out to me, said, "Are you interested in a book?" I said, "I've had one idea for a book my whole life. It's the only thing that I know at this stage in my life that I could confidently write about." And I had the title, How to Be Married to Melissa. So, and because they've approached me about doing more, and you're like, I know, I just don't, it was a lot easier to write a book during the pandemic than
It was
it
easy to do a
is.
lot of things.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, today in Colorado Springs, I've got, where things are going again. So aside from these meetings and stuff that I have today, it's 2 shows, fly to Kansas, 2 shows tomorrow. We did a show yesterday, show. You're just in and out of different places. You're just trying to grab sleep when you can. I mean, touring's a pretty intense life. And then I try and do everything that I can work-wise while I'm on the road so that when I'm home, I have none of that to do. So yeah, it was kind of I don't know, the stars aligned. It ended up being a good time for something like that. I was like, well, it's this or learn how to make bread or whatever.
Did you have any other COVID hobbies that you developed?
Mel and I, we did actually, it was so funny because we actually worked out a ton, but we were eating so poorly that we were not getting healthier.
Right.
That's what it was, because everything was just extremes. I describe the COVID era as and we were in Southern California, so it lasted a while. As the opening line to A Tale of Two Cities. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times, because we spent so much time together as a family. We're like, I guess we'll watch all the Marvel movies. I guess we'll, like Mel and I finished Ted Lasso last week, and we're like, that was a pandemic show that came out in 2020. It kind of was like, is it? Is it officially? Have we bookended all of that now? So there was a little bit of everything, but thankfully that book opportunity came out and it gave me something to work on. And it kind of was a nice career bump for me, because the book came out a year ago, 2 days ago. It just came out. It's its year anniversary. And as things were opening up, I had a thing that to kind of give to the world, and went on James Corden and promoted, and a lot of different stuff. And so it ended up being something we were real grateful for. But I'm not in a hurry to write another one. So much work. Oh my gosh, writing a book, so much work.
Hey, you crushed it though. You crushed it. I think
Thank you.
what's great about it is the celebration of the uniqueness of marriage. And you know with young adults, which is kind of the theme of the podcast, a lot of young adults are in that kind of pre-marriage, marriage, dating, all those phases. And I do premarital counseling, for these couples. And I
Yeah.
just recently did one for a couple that has kids together. They've been together for a long time. And I looked at my notes and it was like, you know, how to navigate household chores. And I'm like, throw this out the window, because I think you don't
Yeah.
need that advice, because it's also unique and so different. What are some of the differences? And you talk about them in length in the book, but about you and Melissa, that you guys have kind of found to embrace and love about each other.
Yeah, I will say that I've had a couple of pastors message me and be like, "This is now our book for premarital counseling," and I love that. I think that's
Yes.
so fun because it's like it's gonna make it a much easier read for one, like, and feel
Oh
less
yeah.
like homework, you know. So I mean, geez, I mean, Mel and I have been together for over 20 years at this point. Like, our her differences, our differences are enormous, but they don't feel, we're just so in sync at this point that it just feels like, I don't know, like the right arm can do this and the left arm can do this. You
Right.
know, it doesn't feel, there's certainly not, I don't feel like any of us have massive, we don't have any conflicting differences. You know, and we're so well aware of them at this point. So you can, I mean, she's neurotypical. I have ADHD. I have neurodivergent. That's one, like that's and that can affect everything from how I clean up or shut cabinets or to sleep or energy patterns or focus. Or it's like I called her today and she just finished hiking, and I was like, I want to talk about January vacation right now. And she's like, really? Like stuff like that. But you just learn to, or like another one is like, anytime we talk about like how we're feeling, like talk like heavy emotion stuff, Mel doesn't know how she feels or Mel doesn't know why she feels a certain way
Right.
a lot of time for hours later. And in that time can be moody and like upset or mean, which I can be then just also mean right back at her. Whereas I kind of have I immediately to a fault, I'm like, this is my feeling right now. This is why I'm feeling. Let's deal with it. So it's just a lot of those type of things where you just go, you learn to be patient and mesh with one another, but to name the differences, you're like, I mean, I don't even know where to start.
Right. Well, people just have to read the book, because
Yeah, there you go.
the writing the writing is hilarious, and just the storytelling.
Alex.
Like, I'm a note taker when I read books, and so most books it's like, thought provoking. I wrote LOL in the columns way too much
Yeah.
in this book, or circled things that I need to share with Taylor, my wife. And but no, it's just a perspective that I think was refreshing. I mean, you talk about raising kids, you talk about, COVID, you talk about faith and just the changes of that. And I think, you got married when you were 19 years old. And,
Mhm.
I'm in this phase, I'm 32 now. And so a lot of my friends, we've been married 8 to 10 years. And, I think we catch this like glimmer and this glimpse of kind of restlessness. And I think they talk about that in different studies. But, what's kind of been the key for you guys in, somebody that's maybe saying, hey, I'm bored with this. Like, I've been with this person.
Right.
The 19-year-old version I married is very different than the 40-year
Yeah.
old or whatever. How have you guys kind of navigated that?
Yeah. I mean, I think that kind of in the spirit of of the book, it's never been an issue for me. So I have no idea how to help someone who's dealing with that. I don't. And I think that because we've never navigated that particular issue. We've navigated how to lose a house and declare bankruptcy. We've navigated raising kids. We've navigated faith ups and downs and struggles. That's like some people critique the book and they're like, why is there this huge chapter on faith and God in the middle of it? Because it's our story. That's the point, dummy. Like, that's the whole point, is that this is our uniqueness. And so I use the term a lot about Melissa, that she's just like endlessly interesting to me. I've never been bored with her. I've never felt restless. I've had personal restlessness in like my life and my career, and that led to a gigantic career change in our late 20s, early 30s. We were very fortunate that we found someone that we were not only compatible with when we were young, but we've grown compatible together. And I know that's not the case for everyone. That being said, we are also enjoying the fruits of 20 years of compromise, sacrifice, empathy, learning to genuinely trying to put the work in, and being willing to grow with somebody and to change yourself, and to go to therapy or learn about yourself or work on your issues or whatever it may be. But I also know that we're very fortunate, because a lot of people, they reach a point where, and you hear it a lot, where they go like, but that person just isn't worth it to me to do that anymore. I don't want to do the work. So that's where we kind of walk this line of like, yeah, we have worked very hard and we're enjoying the fruits of our labor. Also, we're very, very fortunate and don't know how to speak to that specific issue. So I won't.
No, that's so good.
I hate when people talk about things they haven't gone through. I hate it. That's like the whole premise and thesis of that book, is like, how dare you? How dare you be so audacious to speak through a struggle you have not gone through, unless you are highly qualified and have counseled thousands and thousands of couples to speak into this specific issue. I mean, it is at best kind of haughty to do, and at worst it's very damaging to somebody's relationship. I don't like being in the advice business.
Right. Well, I think the difference of proactive and reactive is interesting, because I think some of the things you say in the book, or even what you just said of like, yeah, I've never walked through that, but I think there's proactive things that you guys have done too, that's just evident from afar, of just the idea of shared wins, and the roles that you guys have just kind of fallen into, embracing each other's differences and changing together. I think that's another kind of thing that really stood out to me too, is life changes, people change, things change. I remember, right before the pandemic, my wife and I moved out to the Philadelphia area. And so we were kind of like in North Dakota, where COVID didn't exist. And then we moved to Philadelphia, which is kind of similar to the California scene when it comes to that. And there was a point where my wife was working, or she was staying at home with the kids. And, that had been her dream job. Like when we were dating and married, she's like, if I could just stay home with the kids, that would be, and we were fortunate enough to have that. And then one day she was kind of like complaining about that. And I was like, well, this is your dream job. And she's like, dreams change. And I think that it was almost like a kind of a wake up for us of like, that's true. We've changed.
Yeah.
Like the things we care most about, our priorities changed, and we need to change together and pursue whatever is next. But you took a pretty hard pivot in some ways from youth ministry, into the comedy scene. But the way you described youth ministry, it hit my funny bone. And so I just have to read a quote from the book. You wrote, it was for sure invented by parents who looked at their middle school boy who smelled like a dumpster behind the Applebee's. And when they looked at their awkward baby with a mustache, they said, this is God's problem, and outsourced him to the church. What a great line and a great description of youth ministry that I need to share with my friends.
Good. Hey, I'm here to serve. That it really is like, and I know that as a parent of teenagers, where you're like, I'm just looking for any help anywhere.
Yes.
This kid that I had that was cute and loved me unconditionally now just hates the sight of me. I don't even do anything. And then also will be that little kid sometimes, and then also will be like a gentle adult. And then yeah, it's porcupines, right? Like they won't hug you anymore. It's wild. And you're just looking for any support system you can get. That's why you're like, yeah, no, whatever they believe. I don't care. Just I'll send them to any religion's youth group. I don't care. Just someone help me, someone pray to a deity for some support.
Help me out, man. No,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Was that transition? I know it was a long time, and you get into that in both your comedy, your book, and all that. But was that kind of something that was like an easy transition to say yes? Hey, let's go all in on this, or was that like one of the more nerve-wracking things you've done?
No, I mean I never like I had a buffer. There was no I actually left youth ministry before I started comedy. I had a day job like working at the rec center that I did for 5 years. And I had started that's when I started doing comedy. And so it was not it was kind of a clean the first career change was leaving ministry, which at that point I was just so burnt out that I was like, I don't miss this even a little bit.
Right.
Like to answer the question about the career change in comedy in particular, I mean it was 5 years of absolute sludge and hard work and no sleep. Like it was I mean you talk about it in the book. I mean, for the better part of 5 years, I would work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or sorry, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I work Sunday through Thursday. I would open the rec center early so I could leave around 11 noon, get on a plane or drive to my gig that weekend, go be at that gig all weekend, fly home, usually on the last night, sleep at the airport so I didn't have to pay for a hotel, get home, shower, go to work at noon. Like that was it for about 5 years. So it was, yeah, very, very hard.
I
It was
believe
about
it.
as hard as an airport floor is what it was. But it wasn't. I mean, obviously, zero regrets. And if you do it any other way, it's you're gonna be a better product for it. And when you have other people supporting, you cannot sell out on something that might negatively affect them. The
Right.
selfishness of that decision. You're already making a selfish move by doing something that kind of takes you away from them. So then if you put them at risk as well for not having their needs met financially, emotionally, whatever it may be, it's why we live in San Diego and not LA. It would be wildly beneficial for me to live in LA, but my kids know San Diego and that's where they live. And I leave on the weekends anyways. So we're not going to be like, hey, dad leaves on the weekends and we're living in the city that only he wants to live in. So there's a million little compromises like you make like that. But when people are like impressed by that, I'm like, how is that even a choice? Of course you can't sell out your family for the good of your stupid little stand-up dream. Like,
Right.
I,
Well, but in reality, probably sadly you can, and so
yeah, I
for,
mean, people do. And I just listen, I know my career was different in that I had a family before stand up and I will have a family after stand up. Like that they predate that. And if you can get a job that you are creatively fulfilled in, fantastic. It's great. I think it's important, but it can't come at the cost of other people because it's just selfish.
right, for sure. Well, your new YouTube special, Runs in the Family, recently came out, and it is hilarious, and I think
Oh,
everybody
thank you.
everybody should watch it. And there's one that kind of cracked my funny bone extra hard was your daughter talking about therapy and asking if you've been in therapy or if you were in therapy when you were a kid. And the harshness of I couldn't even tell my dad I was thirsty. I think that is so funny. And I have kind of like the relatable growing up, like the rub some dirt in it could have been like the live, laugh, love banner
Yeah.
across our home.
That's
Uh,
funny.
and I mean, like I remember, so I played baseball and I broke my leg in a game my sophomore year of high school. And so I'm laying
Yeah.
on the field. My foot is cattywampus. And the thought that's running through my head is, I hope my parents don't find the secular music that I left on in my car. Like the strictness of my
Oh, that's
home.
hilarious.
And I think that was just a generation. Like it wasn't just my dad, it was like Christian
No.
dads. Like
And their
I
dads were even stricter. We just get less and less strict.
Yeah, I played rec basketball, and we had a team called the Victorious Secrets, and I designed the shirt. It was like a pink, seductive
Yeah.
woman, and I hid it for years. And my mom just recently found it in my childhood drawer in our house, and I still felt like oh no, I got caught. I've been
Hilarious.
caught.
That's so funny.
So no,
Not
it's
drugs. They didn't find drugs or a
no.
weapon or anything. They found a dad joke.
Yes, and they also found, when we were seniors, you had like the underground senior T-shirts, and they're
Sure.
little inappropriate. And my high school mascot was the Demons, which is terrible for a Christian family. I had to hide I had to hide my own, like, school paraphernalia from my family. But yeah, so those are the types of things that my parents are finding of mine now that I'm like dreading. Like, is there more?
Hilarious.
Is there more? But no, as a dad myself, I've got three young kids, and yours are a lot older down the road. You can speak to this, just briefly as we kind of close out. Like, what's something that's really stood out to you in this particular season, about maybe those early years of like, man, if I could do it again, or I'm so glad we did this.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, we're kind of like closing. The door isn't shut, but the door is definitely closing on the early years, right? Like, so my daughter, for example, she's finishing third grade, and where we have a school that we go to, for like, it's kind of like a hybrid middle school where it's fourth through eighth, and we go to the little elementary school across the street. And this last week, I was like, because I was leaving for the road, I was like, oh, this is the last time I'm walking any kid to school. This
Wow.
is my
Yeah.
last time walking a child to school, because we'll drive her next year. Actually, her brother will drive her next year, which is crazy in its own right. And so it does, what's the old phrase? The days are long, but the years are short. I do think that what I'm most grateful for is that we are a family with an emphasis on fun. Like, we play together, we're silly together, we wrestle together, we play on the trampoline together. Because I don't know, to me, you don't need any help making life serious. It will be serious on its own. I think there is no value or integrity to seriousness. I think Chesterton has an old quote like that, actually, that there's nothing moral about it. There's nothing more important about being serious. We are a family that just has an emphasis on levity and fun, and, like I said, play and laughter and music. And now there's also plenty of anger and fighting and drama and mistakes made by all parties, and tears and all of the above. But I know, and I'm thinking about that now, because the type of fun is changing. Like, we're doing different things together now, like as they get older, and you're like, oh, you're like 16, we actually have similar interests. So I don't
Right.
know, as much as you can. I mean, we're so grateful to be a family that has an emphasis on fun.
Yeah. I love that. And you can't build that now. Like, it would be hard if you
Yeah.
started now. I love
Yeah.
that. One of the questions I ask every guest on the podcast is, if you could go back and have a conversation with the 22-year-old version of you, what advice would you give him?
Yeah, start stand up sooner. That's the main one. Don't wait till you're 27. You've been thinking about this forever. Start going to open mics now. This is going to save you a lot of time.
Oh, it's good. Hey, the practical, the better.
Yeah.
One time I asked somebody, and they just said, invest in Bitcoin at that time. Maybe it's
Right,
not as sound advice now.
Yeah.
And then get out at the perfect time. But
yeah.
hey, thanks for, taking some time. I know you're on the road and got all sorts of things going on, but where can we find you? Where can we keep up? And what's going on in your world right now?
Hey, I have the new special out on YouTube. You mentioned the book. If you just go to my website, dustinnickerson.com, that's going to have all my tour dates as well. I'm going to be on this tour, the Halfway There tour, for the next year or so. So check it out.
Awesome. Well, we'll make sure to link all that. I know you're in Minneapolis on August 25th.
Correct, yeah.
Because I had tickets and I am doing a wedding as a pastor. Officiating a wedding. So
I know. I refunded your tickets very graciously of me, by the way. I did not have to do that.
Thank you. I didn't know that you would be the physical person refunding my tickets.
Yeah, so. That was me there. I got that email.
That's amazing. Awesome. Well, hey, thanks a ton. Grateful to have you on.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.